Memory is a strange thing. It tells us who we are. It anchors us in time and purpose and meaning.
So what happens when memory vanishes?
Just wake up.
Yeah, just joining the party.
You'll never make it.
Turning the page, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next?
And all you're left with is the cold hum of a dying ship.
It starts with Ben looking out. And action!
And a feeling in your gut that something is very, very wrong.
I don't know.
Where's the rest of the crew?
There's something uniquely terrifying about
About waking up in the dark.
not just because you can't see, but because you can't remember
I don't know what happened.
who you are, where you are, whether the thing breathing in the shadows is a monster or you. The Dead Space-like movie you've probably never seen.
And why it might actually be a secret masterpiece in disguise.
There's a moment in Pandorum that chilled me to the bone. One of the characters, surrounded by steel walls and flickering lights, looks out into the void and mutters,
Where are the stars? Oh my god.
"It's a simple question, but it haunted me."
Pandorum is one of those films that quietly crawled its way out of the 2000 horror sci-fi film stew.
Ben, can you hear me?
Out here, there is no rescue and there is no turning around.
Released in 2009, shrugged off by critics, mismarketed into obscurity, and seemingly built from the spare parts of other, more legitimate properties. And yet, over time, it's gathered this cult following.
People like me that revisit it every year or two.
Who quote that eerie line, who feel like this forgotten little film might just be saying something more than it lets on.
I don't think this thing was even built to return.
I think this movie poses a great question. Who are we without our mission? It's easy to feel strong when you have a purpose, a job, a routine, but when that gets stripped away and you're left alone in the dark,
Who are you then?
are you still you? Or are you just another animal scrabbling for survival?
Up and we're on the main walkway. Should be easy from there.
The movie kicks off in a disorienting fashion. Bauer, played by Ben Foster, wakes up alone in a malfunctioning cryo chamber. He's confused, panicked, and disturbingly isolated.
I'm Bauer. Corporal Bauer, sir.
Soon after, he meets Peyton, played by Dennis Quaid, and they begin to piece together what's going on.
Waking from extended hypersleep. This is disorientation.
Amnesia, power failures, claustrophobic corridors. It's classic, but things go sideways fast. There are strange creatures aboard the ship, cannibalistic, mutated humans, almost tribal in appearance and behavior.
We should run.
No clear explanation at first for what they are.
Just terrifying glimpses.
They will never let you get away with it.
Space delirium, body horror, psychological collapse.
It's the brightest. You understand what I'm saying?
And it feels like a video game too, not just in pacing or visuals, but structurally.
The ship is dying. We should be focusing on how to save ourselves.
There's a reactor to reboot, a corridor to crawl through, a secret history to uncover.
In another timeline, this movie is a Dead Space spin-off.
But that's not a knock, it's a part of what makes this movie so uniquely unnerving. The film predominantly utilizes a dark and gritty visual palette. With shades of black and gray dominating the scenes. This choice creates a sense of confinement and unease, mirroring the characters' disoriented and paranoid states as they navigate the spaceship Elysium. Strategic use of colored lighting, such as eerie blues and greens and reds, punctuates the darkness and emphasizes moments of tension and highlights the ship's decaying infrastructure.
Never quite felt like sticking around to find out. Running is always the best option.
Another notable aspect of Pandorum's visual storytelling
Is its reliance on practical FX and real sets over
The
CGI.
set design was very impressive.
Ended up building 12 sets in all, and we've got all 45 different spaces out of those 12 sets.
This approach grounds the sci-fi elements in a tangible reality, making the horror more immediate and visceral. There's a kind of loneliness that echoes, that turns silence into screaming. You see it in Bauer's eyes, in the long corridors.
Pandorum, you ever felt those symptoms?
The fact that no one seems real anymore.
The loneliness isn't just quiet, it's abundantly loud. The term Pandorum in the film refers to a psychological condition triggered by deep space travel.
It was Pandorum. I had to defend myself.
The syndrome is brought up as a cautionary tale, but over time, it seeps into the narrative itself. Characters hallucinate, they forget who they are. Reality becomes slippery. You might think that a lot of what we see in the film is a projection of the syndrome, that only the two main characters are real, and everyone else is a part of their mental unraveling.
Well, you just need the proper treatment.
That the mutants, the tribal chaos, the entire post-apocalyptic micro-society on the ship could all be the echoes of madness.
That's one reading.
Another equally compelling interpretation is that Pandorum isn't about the monsters and events. It's about the monsters in our own minds, about what happens when purpose is lost and when hope is severed. Think about it. The Earth is gone.
These people were meant to be the future of the species.
This archive holds the world we are going to live in.
But when the transmission comes through, you are all that's left.
You're all that's left of us. Good luck. God bless. And Godspeed.
Gallo, one of the crew members, breaks. His mind fractures. He murders. He rules. He reprograms the mission around his own twisted will.
The ship becomes a prison, or a tomb, or a petri dish.
I can't even remember what life was like before this flight began.
Pandorum, at its core, is a film about psychological collapse and the absence of meaning. And in that way, it's less about space horror and more about existential dread.
Solidarity goes a long way.
What happens to us when we're no longer sure what us even is? That line, "Where are the stars?" It doesn't just work because it's creepy. It works because it underlines the emotional core of the film: isolation.
Oh, Pandorum isn't what they warned us about.
We assume we're in space. We assume the stars are out there, but when Bauer looks out, he only sees darkness. It's later revealed that the ship has landed. They're underwater. They did make it. It's not the reactor that saves humanity. It's the realization that maybe, just maybe, they're not alone, that there's a future to step into. The survivors rise to the surface of a new world. And while the trauma is not erased, it's transformed into a new beginning.
Pandorum drops, and it bombs.
Critics called it derivative, convoluted, ugly, and it currently holds a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. These reviews helped sink its distributor, but what's weird is how often reviews dismissed it without really engaging with it. Too much like Event Horizon, confusing, pointless. It makes me wonder, were we watching the same movie? There's also real ambition here, a layered structure,
A commentary on trauma and memory.
the final reveal that ties the whole film together in a way that makes it more emotionally resonant the second time you watch it.
Do you hear me?
The film poses the question, maybe the monsters weren't the ones with the claws. Maybe it was what they became,
What they let themselves become when they thought no one was watching.
when they thought humanity was already gone.
Three lost souls whose destiny had become undone because there was How could I have done that?
Bauer doesn't remember who he is, but he still acts with compassion, still wants to help, still believes something can be saved, and maybe that's what humanity is.
Not memory, not mission.
Just the stubborn refusal to give up.
Save the ship. We save them.
The end of Pandorum doesn't promise a perfect future, but it does offer a beginning.
At least we didn't wake up floating away in a coffin.
Who says we didn't?
A surface, a breath. Sometimes hope isn't loud or clear. It's just the realization that maybe there's still something worth stepping out into. It isn't a perfect movie, but it doesn't need to be.
I think we've been asleep longer than you think.
It's a sci-fi horror film that dares to ask,
What if the real danger in space wasn't the aliens?
or the reactor, or even the mutants, but the loss of identity, purpose, and meaning.
Know that, but I'm not in charge here. I'm trying to find out what happened to the ship.
It's a movie about waking up, about not knowing who you are, but still moving forward. And honestly, that might be more relevant now than it was in 2009. If you got something out of this movie,
If it made you think or feel a certain way,
I would love to hear your comments and thoughts down below.
I find film discussion so engaging and would love to chat with you.
If you've never seen Pandorum or haven't revisited it since its release,
Maybe it's time.
after all, the stars are still out there. We just have to find them.
Thanks for watching, and make fun choices.